What's up, everybody? Thanks as always for supporting the show. It would mean a lot to me if you would take a second to scroll down and hit that subscribe button to the Hoops Tonight YouTube channel, and then follow me on social media on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter so you guys don't miss any of our content over the course of this season. All right, let's talk some basketball. The basketball fan in me is absolutely loving all this training camp content. Just like watching that reel on Instagram of all the guys walking off the bus, and it's like, oh shit, there's Steph. Oh, there's KD. Oh, there's LeBron. Oh, yeah, I forgot Kawhi Leonard's on this team too. Oh, yeah, Devin Booker. Oh, and it's Joel Embiid. Like, it's just one after the other. It's like, oh, there's Anthony Edwards. He was the best player on the team last summer. Like, it's just, there's so much incredible talent on this team. Part of the thing that makes it interesting is Steph, KD, and LeBron are the old guys, right? They're like kind of like what Larry Bird and Magic Johnson were on the 1992 Dream Team. The difference is like at that point in time, Magic was still really good, but Larry was starting to fall apart physically. Steph, KD, and LeBron are all still playing at an extremely high level. I think they're all still top 10 players in the league. Steph struggled a little bit at the tail end of last season, but I think there were some mitigating factors there, and I think he's going to have a big bounce back year. I will most likely have all three of them in my top 10 after the end of the summer, so those guys are all still playing well enough, but then you are adding them to all these in their prime stars, guys like Joel Embiid, Anthony Davis, Devin Booker, Kawhi Leonard, Jason Tatum, Anthony Edwards, and so it's just going to be so much fun. And as basketball fans, we couldn't hope for a better summer appetizer before we head into next season. So as I mentioned before, there are three major questions that I have about this team. Where does it stack up with other USA teams? Who should start? Other lineup questions. And can anybody beat this team? Let's start with where does this team stack up? Now, in terms of talent, it's hard for me to put this team ahead of the 92 team, the 08, or the 2012 team because of the top tier talent. So for instance, in 1992, Michael Jordan was far and away the best player in the world, played for Team USA. Every single player on first team All-NBA that year made Team USA. 4 of the 5 players on second team All-NBA made Team USA. So 9 of the top 10 players in the world at that point in time were playing for Team USA. It's hard to match that in terms of top-end talent. In 2008, Kobe and LeBron were the 2 best players in the world. I thought Kobe was the best player at that point. I thought LeBron was the second best player. They both played on that Olympic team. In 2012, LeBron James and Kevin Durant were the 2 best players in the world. LeBron was clearly number 1, KD was number 2, but they were both on that team. In this particular stretch of time in basketball history, right now in the year 2024, there are 3 players that are in the top tier of players in the world, in my opinion. Nikola Jokic, Luka Doncic, Giannis Antetokounmpo. None of those guys play for Team USA. Joel Embiid has that type of talent, but as we know, he's never really been able to put it together for a full season, including the playoffs. So, like, this Team USA doesn't have that, like, true world-altering top-tier talent that some of the other teams in the past did. But they have so many guys immediately below that tier. And most importantly, I actually do think this team will rival the other Team USA teams in dominance because of the fact that they complement each other so well. This team is interesting because they don't have one of the top 3 players in the world, but they have a very, very well-fitting basketball team. And I think that that's going to be an interesting concept for us to dive into a little bit further, which I'm going to do in the next segments. But yeah, in terms of talent, just sheer top to bottom talent, I think you got to put this one in 4th place behind those other 3 teams, just simply because Nikola Jokic is the best player in the world. Luka Doncic and Giannis are right there behind him. I don't think anybody on this roster has a claim to be in that group. Who should start / who is their best 5? So let's think about it from the perspective of filling responsibilities. I always talk about like looking at basketball teams as filling five men having to fill responsibilities on both ends of the floor. That is how a team either becomes more than the sum of its parts or less than the sum of its parts, how well they complement each other. Too many redundancies in one area, not enough in another area, that team will underachieve. Really good balance across the board, that team has the potential to overachieve, right? So let's look at it from the perspective of filling responsibilities. Who is the best skill guard on the team? Skill guard, this is the guy that's going to initiate offense. Usually he's going to run the first action, the first trip up the floor. The guy that is going to be usually your most skilled player, your best passer, your best shooter, that sort of thing, right? It's Steph Curry, no question. He starts at the point. There's no debate. Steph is your guy at the 1, right? Who's the best athlete guard on the team? Remember, as I structure teams, I kind of look at it from like, I want a skill guard, I want an athlete guard, I want like a perimeter-based forward, I want an interior forward, and then I want a versatile big man, right? So if Steph is our skill guard, who are we looking at the 2? It's probably Anthony Edwards, right, in terms of the best athlete guard. But he has some specific weaknesses that I think make him a poor fit with the starters. One, he's not great at navigating screens yet. So, like, I look at him, if you were to run some sort of drop coverage, put him on the opposing guard, I think he would do better with Team USA because he'd devote more resources there. And I do think a lot of it is just conserving energy for Ant. But I don't love that fit. And then in terms of the fit alongside other stars, he's still a little bit inconsistent at making quick and smart reads in 5 out. So I don't think he's a great fit with the starters. Devin Booker, I view as another skill guard. So he's redundant with Steph on the defensive end of the floor. Steph and Devin Booker would be fine on offense, but I don't want 2 guards that I ideally don't want guarding the other team's best guard. That would be an issue, right? Drew Holiday can do that, but he's not good enough to start over some of these superstar players, right? Tyrese Halliburton is neither good enough nor a complementary fit. He's also redundant with Steph. And so that's it for the guards. So if Anthony Edwards is not a great fit, Tyrese Halliburton's not a great fit, Drew's not good enough, Devin Booker's not a great fit with the starters, then we got to look at the forwards. And if we look at the forwards, LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Kawhi Leonard, and Jason Tatum, this is where Jason Tatum becomes a really natural fit for me. Jason Tatum is the most mobile on the perimeter player of all of those forwards. Like, those other guys might be like LeBron and Kawhi might be a little bit more physically imposing. KD's got more length, but Tatum has the best combination of like length and actual foot speed to contend on the perimeter. But he also has the strength and size to guard bigger forwards and centers. And so you can ask him to chase and apply back pressure. You could ask him to switch in a switching scheme. And for the record, and this is where I think it's important for us to get to this, the one weakness on this roster is perimeter foot speed. If there's a vulnerability in their defense, it's to quick guards, quickness on the perimeter, right? So I actually view this as more of a switching team. I think that's primarily what they're going to do with their main groups. Not to mention, Eric Spoelstra and Steve Kerr are 2 coaches that philosophically have a lot of belief in switching as a defensive scheme. I think it's the best fit for this roster. I think it's the natural fit with the coaching staff. That's what I expect them to do. They really only have one guy on the entire roster who is a high-level, point of attack, chase over screens type of guy, and that's Drew Holiday, who I don't expect to play a ton with this group. So I look at this as a switching scheme. So if it's a switching scheme, Jason Tatum, I think, is a really natural fit at the 2 because he's quick enough to guard some quicker players. You won't ask him to navigate a bunch of screens because he'll be switching, but he can also switch onto bigger players. So to me, Jason Tatum is that kind of like shoe-in fit at the 2. He's also the most natural offensive fit alongside the other stars. We talked about Tatum, whether or not he'd be a good fit reading and reacting with 4 other stars. Tatum's great at that stuff. The rub on Tatum is, if he's the 1 star on the floor, is he aggressive enough and effective enough to be an offensive engine? That's legitimate criticism. But we literally watched him be just this perfect cog in a system in Boston with lesser stars around him, but he was surrounded by a bunch of really high-level players. He is a quick decision maker. He is a ball mover. He doesn't hijack the offense. He didn't even hijack the offense with the Celtics, let alone in a team like this with all of these stars. He had a rough pull-up shooting season, but he's an excellent catch-and-shoot guy. He shot 45% on catch-and-shoot jumpers this season, including regular season in the playoffs, 1.36 points per shot. Even when he shot poorly in the postseason, he still got to 1 point per shot on catch-and-shoot jumpers. That is his most reliable form of jump shooting. That is a natural fit. If Tatum gets wide open catch-and-shoot looks, I feel like they're going to go in. So he is a beautiful plug-and fit at the 2 because in a switching scheme, he can guard up and down. He has the most perimeter quickness, and he's a natural fit alongside stars on the offensive end of the floor. Tatum's versatility is a huge value, I think, on this particular team. So now that we have our skill guard and we have our athlete guard that's being replaced by an athlete forward in Tatum because of fit, who's the best perimeter forward on the team? Probably KD, right? Brings a ton of skill, brings length. He's super easy to plug and play with other stars. He's probably the best plug and play star ever, right? But as we know, KD is probably going to miss at least I think he's probably going to miss that scrimmage against Canada on Wednesday, which sucks because I'm going to be there and I would love to have seen KD with those guys. But I expect he'll be back for the Olympics. Apparently this calf strain is something he had before, and I just don't think he would have showed up if he didn't plan on playing. So my guess is he'll be back. But in the short term, I think Kawhi Leonard is the fit in that spot. You plug Kawhi Leonard in at the 3, but in the long run, I think Kevin Durant is your 3. Who is the best big forward on the team? It's LeBron. And like that might have been more clunky as a fit early in his career when he wasn't as good of a jump shooter, but he's become an excellent catch and shoot guy. And especially in the last year with the Lakers with their shift to 5 out, but they started to do this last year where LeBron was operating as a screener a bunch. But this year with the Lakers in their 5 out system, LeBron became a devastating screen and roll guy. He shot 61% on his own shot attempts, field goal percentage, on over 100 reps this year as a roll man for the Lakers in their 5 out offense. We know how he can operate as a passer in that role as well. I think LeBron is going to be a guy that actually slots really well into that 5 out system as basically a screener. And I think with his combination of size and strength on the defensive glass and defensively in general, I just think he's the perfect fit there at that 4, right? And it just is going to add to that physical profile of that front line. He's still one of the best combinations of size and strength in the NBA, even at over 40 years of age. Who is the starting center? I guess LeBron is actually turning 40 next year. I think he's still 39 at this point. Who is the starting center? To be clear, I do think that Embiid is a better basketball player than Anthony Davis. I think he's a much better offensive engine, which brings more value to a basketball team. It's a similar concept to what we're going to be talking about with Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese here in a minute. So I do think that Embiid is a better player than Anthony Davis. But this is not an NBA team. This is an Olympic team. It's not about how you can lift up other role players. It's about how you can complement other stars. We talked earlier, if you guys remember, about how I see this as a switching team. Embiid cannot defend on the perimeter in the same stratosphere as Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis is the combination of elite rim protector, elite defensive rebounder, elite pick and roll defender, and elite switching perimeter defender that makes him the ideal fit in a switching scheme next to other big forwards like KD, like LeBron, Jason Tatum, etc. So I view Anthony Davis as a really, really natural fit within this switching scheme on the defensive end of the floor. On the offensive end of the floor, Embiid's post-up and face-up attack would actually be a rhythm disruptor for the rest of this team. You don't want to have Steph and KD and all of them just standing on the perimeter while Embiid starts unleashing his jab step pump fake game trying to draw fouls, right? Like it's going to be kind of clunky, right? AD would just function basically as a screener and a roller, as a vertical spacing threat. I think he's a more natural fit on the offensive end too. Again, Embiid's a better player, but fitting alongside this team, Anthony Davis is the better fit. I do prefer Embiid for specific matchups, like when they play France. France is going to play Victor Wembanyama and Rudy Gobert. They're going to be a nightmare in the paint. Embiid's three-point shooting will probably be valuable in that matchup. Against Serbia, who they scrimmage next week, and they play in the first Olympic game in late July. You need someone who can guard Jokic, and Embiid is the best equipped player in the world for that. So Embiid, I think, should start certain games and will play more than AD in certain games, but I think AD is the best fit in the starting group to make that 5 play better basketball. With that 5, with Steph, Jason Tatum, KD, LeBron, and AD, you have 4 proven great shooters, a screening fulcrum in AD, who's one of the best vertical spacers in the world, a second screener in LeBron if you need him, and then you have a switching look with 4 big forwards who can all guard up and down positions, and Steph Curry, who you can ask to hedge and recover, or just ask him to press up on the jump shot knowing you have an absurd amount of length behind him. You're going 6'9", 6'10", 6'9", 7 foot with that front line. That's a lot of help defense behind Steph to make his job easier. And then as far as some bench groups, like I love the fit of Devin Booker with Anthony Edwards. That's your skill guard, athlete guard combo, right? You can go small with Drew Holiday out there and Kawhi Leonard at the 4 with Joel Embiid. You can go bigger with Kawhi at the 3 with Bam Adebayo next to Joel Embiid. You have a bunch of different looks. I like in those bench groups too with Embiid, Embiid will actually need to be more aggressive offensively in those groups. So it's just a better fit for him to be able to come in the game and be Joel Embiid. Whereas if he came into the game and was Joel Embiid with the starters, I just think it would be clunky. As far as schematically, like we talked about, I think you will see a lot of switching. I wouldn't hedge and recover with Steph. I would just have him guard and then basically just tell him to press up on jump shots and know that he has backside help behind him and just ask him to rotate. On the offensive end of the floor, I expect them to run 5 out. I haven't seen enough footage from practice to know what they're running yet, but I would just assume they're running 5 out. And with that, it's just lots of ball and player movement, get the defense in rotation, trust each other. KD can attack closeouts. Steph can attack closeouts. Tatum can attack closeouts. LeBron can attack closeouts. AD is just always going to be there ready to finish. All of these other guys can slot in and fill that role. Devin Booker can come onto the floor and provide some of what Steph brings to the table. Ant can do the same. Kawhi can do the same. To me, there's going to be a good amount of scheme consistency from group to group, and you're going to be able to put different types of lineups together that complement each other. And that's the beauty of this roster, and that's why I think they're going to be very dominant. Who can beat this team? Final question. Starts from the standpoint of what are their weaknesses, and I don't think this team has any offensive weaknesses at all. They have plenty of ways to get the defense into rotation. They have plenty of ways to finish plays. They have guys that can take over the game. They have guys that can bully inside. They have elite pull-up shooters. They can play drive and kick. I think they're fine on the offensive end of the floor. Defensively, the one issue, because they have a big center, they have a rim protecting center, they have tons of forwards, they have tons of length. The one thing is they just don't have a ton of foot speed on the perimeter in general. And again, it's worth mentioning they have more than enough length to make up for it, but they could be vulnerable to some really quick guards. So with that, let's take a look at the Vegas odds. So these are according to DraftKings. USA is currently favored at minus 390. It's a pretty substantial favor. Nothing insane, but pretty substantial. Canada is the second favorite at plus 900. But I don't like the matchup because their two main offensive threats, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Jamal Murray, are pull-up shooters. And the U.S. has a ton of length to bother pull-up shooters. They're not overly quick guys. We know Shai can beat people off the dribble, but he's not lightning quick. There's not a ton of lightning quickness on that team. It's a pull-up shooting team. Length is the best counter for pull-up shooting. They're also undersized on the front line and lack rim protection. That feels like a disaster against a front line of LeBron James and Anthony Davis, or LeBron James and Joel Embiid, and just with the inverted spacing that Steph Curry provides, right? So I don't really view them as a substantial threat. France, plus 1,000 as the third favorite. They have Wemby and Rudy Gobert. Nick Batum at the 3. That's a lot of length. Their backcourt is most likely going to be Frank Ntilikina and Evan Fournier, right? They're going to be a pain in the ass to score against in the paint for sure. But how do you counter a team that has a lot of length under the basket? Perimeter shooting. Team USA just has a ton of it. LeBron, KD, Steph, and Jason Tatum are all really comfortable shooting, not just shooting, but shooting from deep. So that's not going to be, they're all comfortable above the break. So that's not an issue. I even think USA could go centerless against them, because their front line, Gobert's a non-threat offensively, and Wemby's kind of thin. So you could even supplement that with more shooting and just be we're not going to go AD. We're going to go LeBron at center, Tatum at the 4, KD at the 5, or KD at the 3, and we'll go Booker and Steph. And now we just have tons of shooting on the floor. Good luck. Steph, Devin Booker, KD, LeBron, and Jason Tatum. Just good luck. No amount of length at the rim is going to cause that to be a problem, right? And so again, France has some issues that they present, but I think the USA team presents more issues to France. Serbia, they have Nikola Jokic. Serbia right now is plus 1,300. They're the fourth favorite to win the gold medal on DraftKings. They have Jokic, but Team USA has Joel Embiid, who is literally the best human in the world at guarding Nikola Jokic. So that's another thing that USA has a counter for. Not to mention all the issues that the Team USA could present for Serbia on the perimeter, right? Now, again, single elimination is always a variable. Anything could happen when a team goes hot or cold, as we know. But I think USA is pretty resilient to that. And I think they're going to be really hard to beat even in a single elimination setup. I expect them to win convincingly throughout the tournament, and I think they're going to win the gold. I would be really, really surprised if they didn't. This is not a team that I think presents some of the vulnerabilities that other Team USAs that haven't brought all their players have presented. And most importantly, I think they're going to be really fun to watch.